Timmy, we got, this will be recorded too, right?
Yeah, it's recording's on.
Perfect. Yeah, some folks were gonna miss it and they just wanted to catch up on it. Cool. See.
Dad, you know I have a tryout tomorrow?
I'm on the phone.
Okay, I think we're ready to get started here. Welcome everyone to the 2021 Road to Prep Showcase. Can you all hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Perfect. All right. We're excited to sit down with Westminster School head coach Tim Jonkus and Avon Old Farms head coach, the legendary John Gardner. My name is Rich. I'm going to be your moderator for the evening. I work for Elite Hockey and ECC tournaments. Yeah, excited to be here. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. If you haven't done so already, just check and make sure that your microphone is muted. If you have a question, don't raise your hand. Don't do anything that's going to distract from the interviews that's going on. Just leave a message in the chat and we're going to do our best to get to your question. If we don't get to your question or you think of the question later, please, by all means, email ECC tournament or admin@ecctournaments.com. We're going to put that email in the chat for you to check in on later. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to start with our coaches telling us a little bit about themselves. Tim, you want to start?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Rich. First of all, thanks. Great to see everybody. Looking forward to spending the next few days with those here on the call, and obviously some who couldn't make it tonight, but really excited for this event. Think you guys will enjoy the opportunity to work with some prep school coaches and obviously maybe pick up some new sequences on the ice and certainly have the opportunity to compete. But as Rich said, my name's Tim Jonkus. I'm the head coach at the Westminster School. I've been the head coach since 2007. Was my first year as a head coach, but I've been coaching at Westminster since 2004. Prior to that, I went to Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut, and was fortunate enough to be a student athlete there. And prior to that, I was actually a student at Westminster School. I was able to go to Westminster for 3 years. Played actually 3 sports throughout my time at Westminster: soccer, hockey, and lacrosse. And also did a lot of other things at the school before going off to college. So I work my primary responsibility at the school. It's actually I'm the director of athletics, so I oversee our entire athletic program, all 55 teams spread across 15 different sports. So that obviously takes up a good chunk of my day. But I'm also the head hockey coach, as I said. My wife also works at the school, teaches history. And we have 3 daughters, which is fitting since I coach boys. I knew I was destined to only have daughters. So again, looking forward to meeting you guys in person tomorrow and getting on the ice with all of you.
Thanks, Tim. John, you're up next.
Welcome. So happy to see you. It's after Christmas. Hope everybody had a great holiday season. John Gardner from Avon Old Farms. This is my 47th year coaching there. I've been doing a lot of different things at Avon. I started out as a teacher of math and coached 3 sports, worked in the dorm, did all the stuff. And also I grew up at a prep school. My dad was a teacher at Salisbury School, and I grew up there and So I think I know a lot about prep school since my whole life has been there. And right now I'm part-time. I coach hockey and work with admissions and development. I've been at Avon. I've coached 3 different sports in hockey and football and baseball. And I've been I was an athletic director for 13 years and associate head of school for 21 years, and really enjoy working with the students there. And I love coaching hockey and going to work every day. Like Tim, it's ironic. I had 2 daughters, and obviously they couldn't go to Avon because Avon's all boys, and one went to Porter's and one went to Ethel Walker's. But I do have 5 grandchildren, and my hope is my grandson JJ, who's a twin who just turned 3, will someday, maybe play hockey. So we'll see what happens. But I'm certainly happy to be here, and it's a lot better in person. But I'm not a big fan of Zoom meetings, but it is what it is. So we got to deal with what we got to deal with. Welcome.
Thanks. We're making lemonade here, It's just doing the best we can with what we got. All right. So we're going to stay with you, John, just because you got your voice warmed up and you're ready to go, and let's get you out of the way because you don't like Zoom. What makes prep school the right option for kids? Or a good option? Let's say, what makes prep school a really good option for a student athlete?
I think the whole key, is for the parents to recognize that when you send your child to prep school, you're going to get a great education. And that's the bottom line, because, hockey's great and everybody loves hockey and everybody thinks you're going to make it to the NHL. But the facts are you're probably not going to make it to the NHL. So get a great education, be prepared to go to college. Prep schools do a great job preparing you to go to college, and all the coaches that are going to be there tomorrow and the next day really get it. They know what they're doing. And it's just to go. If you think about it, prep school costs a lot of money. I mean, it is big time money. And you look at that, and the sticker shock is like, oh my God. But if you put it in the big perspective of things, then it's a small investment, and what you get out of it, it's everlasting, and it will shape your lives. And any you can ask any alum of a prep school, what effect did that have on you? And particularly the boarding experience that you get in our schools, in our area, it's huge. And I think that makes a huge difference in everybody's life. And in my experience, you've got people coming back and going, oh my God, Avon changed my life. It got me on the right track, and all the contacts that I made, those are people that are friends for life. Our headmaster at Avon for a long time used to give a speech at the first day of school, and he used to say, look around the room. Look at all these people. You don't know any of these people. You're a new student, but some of these people here will be your best friends for life. There'll be people that'll be in your wedding. There'll be people that you'll know throughout your whole career. And it's right. He was right on the money.
Yeah, it's a special thing. Tim, you have any follow-ups on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think John, he hit it on the head, and I think, I hope everyone on this call really listen to what Coach Gardner just said. I mean, it's interesting for me as, someone who obviously coaches against Coach Gardner now and spends a lot of time with him away from the rinks too. But, I was also a player at one time, sitting on the bench, just like all of you on this call, you hope to do at maybe a boarding school in the near future. And, Coach's point about it's really about the people. You can go play hockey anywhere. That's there are countless options for young guys who aspire to play in the college level. There's a lot of different paths you can go, and there's a lot of different options, certainly now in 2021. But we feel pretty strongly that, to Coach's point, that while hockey might be your introduction to this path, once you start peeling back the layers of all the things that are available to you while you're at one of these schools, whether it's the curriculum, whether it's the extracurriculars, whether it's other sports. I mean, both Coach Gardner and I could talk about countless kids who we've coached who have come in as hockey players, identifying as hockey players, and end up going on a lacrosse scholarship to University of North Carolina or to Duke, or a baseball scholarship somewhere else. So you're really exposed to this much larger world than you've ever been exposed to prior to that point. And that goes all the way down to like the kids in your school, right? I mean, you'll be going to school with kids from all across the country and all around the world. So you think about, that history class all of a sudden has a very different meaning when you're sitting there with people who have experienced that history in a very different way. So, it's a powerful experience. Any coach used the word transformational, and that's a word that I use all the time. And it kind of charts your path for the rest of your life. And oddly enough, I was just at my roommate from Westminster's wedding a month ago. It took him a little while to get married, but he finally got there, and we were there celebrating that day with him. But it truly is a very unique experience that frankly cannot be replicated. It cannot be replicated.
And that unique experience, you talked about charting paths for students who are on this call who want their path to be charted through prep school and then into college. How is prep school uniquely positioned to help them make that next step to a college program?
Well, I think, and I'll start, and John, you jump in, but I mean, I think really what these schools do exceptionally well, Rich, is that we understand that the student athlete, while they're young, their primary focus, generally speaking, is on that for specific sport, and they're very passionate about that. And in order for us to prepare them for the rigors of the NCAA, we have to make sure that their AM is as exciting as their PM. So that's what we say at Westminster. Like, as a student athlete, we know you're going to be excited to go to the rink and practice. We know you're going to be excited to get on the bus to go over to Avon or Westminster or Gunnery and compete. You need to wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning with that same level of energy and enthusiasm to go to your first period English class, and then to go to family style lunch. And so really what it is for us at our schools is really helping the student develop the complete mindset of excellence, like how to prepare for their lives so that they step into situations and they're going in the opposite direction of mediocrity. They're chasing excellence in everything they do. And, I know for sure, and I can speak for John, and because I know him well enough. I mean, it's the same over at Avon. It's the same at all of these schools. And the coaches who will be with these guys the next few days, if they were on this call, they'd say the same thing. But that's kind of how we think we prepare the kids for the next step. And you get, obviously phenomenal coaching. And I'm not just talking about John or I mean, the assistant coaches that we have and the resources we have available, they boarding school programs really are run like college hockey programs within reason. We obviously can't keep kids at the rink for 7 hours a day, but they're watching film and they're in the weight room with a strength coach, and they have hydration plans, nutrition plans, and all of those pieces. So again, it's this kind of this whole mentality, the big approach to attacking that point in their lives.
John, how do you specifically think that prep school makes the next step easier for kids? Not saying easier, but helps them with their next step to NCAA hockey?
I think Tim hit the nail right on the head. The one thing I think that we help develop is self-discipline, good habits. You develop a routine that works for you within the framework of the whole school day. And the one thing I think our guys are really well prepared for college because they've had the structure, they've had the discipline. There's a certain time. Okay, I got to get my homework done every night. I've got to get this done, and you learn how to structure your day, which is essential not only to college, but when you start working for a living. And I just think our kids, by going to prep school, are really well prepared for college, academically, socially. You live away from home. And that's a big adjustment for a lot of kids living away from home. It's like, when you go to college, all of a sudden you have all the freedoms and very little of the responsibility. The good thing about prep school is they teach you the responsibilities. And every school is unique. Every school is different. Every school has different emphasis. But I think they all get it, because you have to learn how to live with people in a dormitory. You got to learn how to, to live with people. Hey, there's somebody in the bathroom. Oh, geez, you got to sort of plan your day ahead. And I think that prep schools do a really good job of teaching that. And the other thing is, I think by living with other people in the dorm, you form lifelong friendships. I mean, I just saw my roommate from over 50 years ago from Salisbury, and he and I were roommates for 2 years, and we're still good friends. Even he was an actor out in Hollywood for a while. Thought he was going to make it big. He just did sitcoms and other things that I won't even talk about. But really good guy, really good friend, and you make the relationships that you build in prep school are incredible. So I always tell students that come to Avon, I said, look, we're going to give you the opportunities, we're going to give you the structure, and then it's up to you. And you can buy in, you can fight the system. Some people try to fight the system, and when you fight the system, it's really hard, but the system is there so that it enhances your development as a student and as an athlete and as a person too.
Yeah, that's huge pillars. You talked about structure and discipline and needing to learn how to do those things on your own. And I agree 100%. Those are things you're going to face in college. For someone coming into prep school, though, they're going to struggle a little bit. Can we talk about some struggles that you've seen kids go through when introduced to prep school, and maybe some of the resources that your schools have to help them with those struggles? John, we'll start with you.
Sure. I mean, I think every school has a learning center to help kids get set up and develop good habits. I mean, it used to be, people go, learning center, but so many people now, really need that. And I think schools have embraced that, because everybody learns differently and everybody has different approaches. And I think the prep schools do a good job of individualizing that. Obviously everybody's mainstreamed and everybody has to have certain skills to be able to succeed. But as someone who's been in education for a long time, you see that kids learn differently. And as a coach, you also see that guys learn differently, and you have to have a different approach to most kids. I mean, you have your basic rules and structure as a coach, but then how you deal with each individual. You have to get to know the kids, and I think as coaches, we get to know our guys really well, and have relationships with them, and so that we understand them and they understand us, and all we're trying to do is get the best out of them, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Coaches are there to help kids reach their full potential. Tim, can you tell us, I don't know if you have this story. I'm just going to put you on the spot. Do you have a story about a kid who's, say, struggling, getting into prep school, and once he got there, struggling to, whether it's academically, athletically, life-wise, how did he get past that? What sort of resources did the school help him with?
Yeah, well, first, I mean, obviously Coach Gardner are on the call, and we obviously, work at two schools that are in Connecticut right down the road from each other. But I think it's important to mention, Rich, that there are so many great schools throughout New England that are all very different, located in different places, serve different needs. And the admissions process at all of these schools, which I'm sure we'll dip into in a little bit, it's, the admissions office wants to make sure the kids that they're admitting to that school are going to find success at that school. And, that's really important to note. But certainly at Westminster, I mean, look, we see it every year, as I'm sure John does at Avon, with new students who've never been away from home, right? So that's a huge transition. The academic expectations are going to be probably a little bit different, a little bit higher. And most schools, to John's point, have some sort of learning center or learning area where kids can kind of get squared away and organized in order to attack the year and find the success. But they also are appointed over the summer an advisor. So someone at the school, a faculty advisor who works closely with that young man or young woman, and also with that kid's parents throughout the summer, talking about class offerings. And there's a high level of communication that goes on between the faculty advisor at the school and the parents at home so that everyone's on the same page, because we're obviously working on the same team to make sure the kid reaches their potential. But while all of these schools offer that kind of security net, there's also a fair bit of pushing the students and allowing them to fail sometimes, because that's a big part of getting better too. But the good news is at these schools, you're never going to fail so many times consecutively on the same thing without someone pulling you aside and saying, we got to take a look at this. And that's true, whether it's in a classroom, whether it's in a dormitory, or whether it's on the ice hockey in the rink, right? Like trying to make sure these kids are hitting their marks in every single area is something that these schools do really, really well.
That's awesome. So I just want to remind everybody that if you do have questions for the coaches, please feel free to post them in the chat at any time. Tim, since we're on you, we'll stick with you. But you graduated from Westminster in 2000, went to college, came back in 2004, and you wanted to coach. So what brought you back? And then what kept you there at Westminster?
Well, oddly enough, as a Westminster student, we had a good rivalry, and we still do with John's Avon Old Farm Wing Beavers down the road. And my senior year at Trinity College, I really knew I wanted to go back and work at a boarding school. And I only interviewed at 2 schools. Avon Old Farms was one, and Westminster School was the other. And Westminster, there was a job in the admissions office, and at Avon, it was a job teaching history and actually filling the role that Dan Murphy, who's now the coach at St. Paul's, left when he left Avon to go coach at Taft. But so I knew I wanted to work with kids. I knew I wanted to coach. And I knew I wanted to try to give back to a community that gave so much to me. In full disclosure, I would have never guessed that first year back as a faculty member in 04-05 would have been as fulfilling as it was. I learned so much about myself, so much about what makes these schools great, and the things they can do for the young people who we get to work with every single day. And I think, in our jobs, and I think John would agree, we literally wake up every single day and look forward to going to work because we know we have an opportunity at every turn to make a huge difference in some kid's life. And, that truly is a gift and something that we don't take for granted. So yeah, and, next thing I know, I blink and here I am 18 years later, still doing it and still having a great time with it. And, learning a lot from the people who I work with at Westminster, but also with the other coaches who I get to chat with before games or in the summer. And it's been a wild ride, but a fun one for sure.
All right. Now, John, for those on the call who don't know, you've been at Avon Old Farm since 1975. So what's kept you there and what keeps you going? You've put guys in the NHL. So what's the next step, and how do you keep your ambition level high every year?
You know what? I enjoy going to work every day, if you want to call it work. And it's not really work. It's a way of life, and it's a lifestyle. And I used to tell all the new teachers when they came to Avon, I said, if you look at this place like a job, and you're not going to be successful because it's a way of life. You have to embrace it. And I remember a teacher coming to me and going, geez, I'm working, I work 14, 16 hours the other day. I'm going, you're not working. And they go, what do you mean? And I go, hey, this is the way of life. Where else can you work for 8 months? You had 4 months to yourself. So stop complaining. And a lot of the new faculty didn't like that, but that's the reality. And if you don't like working with kids and you don't like your job, I mean, it keeps you young. I mean, it really does. And I get a lot of psychic energy every day when I go in and talk to the boys. And I have 10 advisees that I interact with all the time. And, you get to know those guys, and you get to know the guys in your team, and you get to know, when I was the associate head, I knew every kid in school. And, I mean, you get to know everybody, and some better than others, but it really, you learn as you're a teacher and a coach, you're still learning. And that's what keeps you young. And every time, somebody go, "Oh, I bet you've seen that before." I'm like, "No, I haven't seen that one. That's a new one." And, it's just, it's a really fun way to earn a living, so to speak. But I think most of the people that, like Tim and coaches that have been around for a long time, they realize what they're doing, and they realize, I'm doing something good. And you try, not everybody likes you, especially the people that wind up getting cut. But in reality, you're doing something good. You're helping young people find their way. And when you're finally done with that, I mean, you can look back and say, look, I really helped those people. And that's what life is all about. I mean, it's not, I mean, a lot of people go out and chase a dollar sign. And a long time ago, the head of Avon Old Farms, George Troutman, who was a wonderful man, who hired me, he said, "You're not going to get rich doing this." And I looked at him, I go, "Okay." And you always think you're going to get rich doing something, but he goes, "You're not going to get rich at this job, but you'll have a really good experience and you'll have a good life." And I wouldn't trade it.
Yeah, you're rich in life. That's fine. All right, so I'm going to ask you guys 3 points in this. Okay, what do you look for in the athlete, the hockey player? What you're watching hockey, what do you look for? What are some of the intangibles you see on the ice? And what do you look for in a student when you're recruiting? And what do you look for character-wise? Are there things, I know you guys probably sit down with each player that you recruit, one-on-one interview, and you ask questions. What are you looking to hear? Okay, so first, athlete, student, and character. Well,
Go ahead, Tim. I have to write this down. I'm sorry.
okay. All right.
We'll go one bullet point at a time. I'm with you, Coach.
All right.
I think, I think probably for John too, and the majority of us who coach at this level, we want to coach great kids. I mean, there's a lot of really talented ice hockey players out there, but certainly, if I'm at a rink or if I'm on the ice with kids watching, of course, the kid whose skill set is high is always going to catch your eye, but it's really then, how do they interact with their teammates and what's their body language like? And, kind of those pieces that are somewhat kind of more mundane, but ultimately what's going to separate them from the pack at the end of the day. And that's the kind of kid that, we certainly want in our locker rooms, but more importantly in our school community, in the classroom. So, skill set's always going to catch the eye of any coach who knows what they're watching, but quickly thereafter, it's the body language and the teammate piece for sure.
Nice. On the ice, what do you see, John?
I'm looking for, obviously, if you're a skater, I'm looking to see whether you can skate. I'm looking at whether you have hands. And Tim touched on this, body language. I hate kids that are looking for rain. The referee makes a bad call. And like, "Oh, it's raining out." Cut the crap. And I think that sort of, that's part of the character thing too. It's you're not going to like every call the referee makes, and God knows, I don't want to even go into that, but it's how you present yourself and how you present yourself to your teammates. And when you score a goal, everybody's got their celly that they go through, and frankly, you celebrate, go congratulate your teammates that set you up. That's the most important part of And it's like the NFL, and this guy gets a first down, and I think Rich Capola the other day put out a tweet, goes, is there ever an NFL player that gets a first down that doesn't get out and go, point, like, boom, that's a first down, hey, look back at the quarterback, nice pass, or, just celebrate your teammates.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, go back to Tim now. We got student. What do we look for in a student? Is it something that's beyond grades? Say you have two students, one's got straight A's, the other's got straight A's, and he's in the theater club. Does the theater club weigh heavily at all?
Well, I think, the theater club's interesting, Rich, I mean, it's like that, honestly, that adds a different layer of intrigue to that applicant's file for sure. And, but I think what we look at is consistency over time, right? Like, and that's why for all of our schools, when the student submits a transcript, it's not just the current year's grades, it's typically the current year, the year prior, and sometimes even the year prior, because we want to see how that student's performed over a larger span of time, and make sure that they're performing consistently, and not see really low grades last year and the year before, but this year all of a sudden they've decided, because they're going to apply to prep school, that now they're stepping it up. And so definitely that consistency piece is huge. Honestly, the comments from teachers are incredibly helpful. These are the people who are seeing the student every single day and who are brutally honest about, the student's potential, ability, participation, preparation, all those pieces. So the teachers' comments also are really, really important.
All right.
This is what I always do this, and I think that you're always looking for kids that are willing to work hard. And I've had kids that apply to Avon, and the admissions goes, oh, I don't know, look at his test scores, and you look at his pattern, and you look at to see whether he can do the work. And I've had cases where I don't know if this kid can do the work, and then later on, 4 or 5 years later, I go, hey, look at that kid, he's all academic team Hockey East, wow, and you said he couldn't do the work here. I love when that happens. I think that's just awesome. And the second thing I always ask kids is, do you like to read? And most of them, if they're honest, well, oh, I don't know. And basically you tell them, learn to like to read, because that's the key. If you develop a love for reading, you'll become a good student. And I always tell them, don't listen to your English teachers. They don't know, they'll have you read stuff that you don't like. Shakespeare, I mean, God knows, Shakespeare is like a foreign language to most people. And the English teachers will pull out their hair, but guess what? Learn to like to read stuff you like, and then you'll grow, and then you read more things. And that's a question I always ask kids. And usually at the end of the interview, I'll suggest a book that, hey, why don't you try to read this book? And you know what? Hopefully it has an effect. And I think that if kids like to read, and down the road, you become a lifelong learner, and you'll be interested in things, and you'll be an interesting person, because you'll be informed on things. So I think the key now, especially with the cell phones and all the media that's there, learn to like to read. That's what I always tell them.
That's an awesome point. And for an English major to hear an athletic coach say that is it's awesome. Good for you.
Right. Oh, you're an English major.
Oh yeah, I'm one of those. I didn't end up an English teacher though, so there we go.
Good.
All right, Tim, we're gonna actually, John, you answered both questions, but Tim, what do you look for in an interview?
I mean, definitely just like how the kid carries themselves, the questions that they come to that interview with. I also ask some questions to them specifically about, something that's, share something of interest with me outside of hockey, right? That's why I said the theater class is kind of interesting. Like, I'd like to hear that, because I think that speaks to a kid's willingness to be uncomfortable and vulnerable. And I think if you're going to get better, both of those things have to be present. Specifically, I'll ask questions about kind of where they see themselves on their development path as a player, and what are some areas that they have to improve on, and kind of really push them to be very specific with those areas. And that just helps me get a way better idea as to how in tune the kid is with kind of where they are at that point. But definitely my go-to is definitely like, tell me something that's kind of outside the box, something that is really interesting that you think will separate you from the other 50 kids that have come through in the course of the year.
Nice. All right, cool. Well, we want to open up to audience questions now. If anyone has a question, please type it in the chat. I don't see any in the chat. Pete, do you see any?
There's got to be some questions. That's why we're here.
Someone's
We're way too
got to be
interesting not
first.
to have questions.
This is easy. You don't have to raise your hand. You just have to type something in the chat box.
Oh yeah. Before we get to the questions, I can actually do the housekeeping now, and then we can get it out of the way. Tomorrow, we're excited for everyone to get started on the ice at the Westminster School. No locker rooms will be available. Players are asked to come dressed and ready to go. Due to COVID-19, players and spectators will all be required to wear a mask while inside the arena. You can find the schedule at ecctournaments.com, and you will receive jerseys and socks when you check in. If you have any questions about what's going on for the rest of the week, you can email admin@ecctournaments.com. I'm going to punch that into the chat right now so you guys all have that.
Just have one quick question just to clarify. Do we have to wear masks on the ice?
I'll be right back.
No, players do not have to wear them on the ice, but have to wear them everywhere else.
Good question, Drew. Thank you. I saw somebody in the chat when I was in the grid view had a McClanahan jersey on the wall behind him. I'm looking again now.
Yeah, Dean Rapace.
Dean, look at that.
One other question, Tim, just for goaltenders.
Yes, yeah, that's a good question. I responded to a mother, Gavin. I'm not sure if it was your mom or not, but goalies, you guys can get dressed in the rink. We know it's harder for you to come half dressed. That's fine. Yeah, there'll be chairs spread out throughout the entire facility, so plenty of places to sit and throw your stuff on.
Another good question here. Are the coaches going to be on the ice for the practices as well?
Yes, coaches will be on the ice with you guys for all your on ice sessions, and then behind the benches for the games.
We got a question here from Evan for both of the coaches. What's the character trait that you see most often for guys who make it far into college hockey? Is there one consistent character trait that every college player has that gets them to that level?
Yeah, it's a great question, and my answer is probably going to provoke a lot of eye rolling. But for me, it's kindness. It sounds like the most basic, simple thing, but all the players that I've coached who've gone on to play Division I or Division III, or even a few who are still playing professionally, I mean, as good as they are, as talented as they are as ice hockey players, they're even better human beings. And I have to believe that, given that sample size, that trait matters. And I'm sure you guys have been hearing that since you were little kids. God knows I say it to my own kids every day, but just being a good human being will take you far.
John, I don't know if you heard the question, but it was, what's the one consistent trait you see from players who make it from prep school and then are successful in college?
I think a good work ethic, and to me, if you have a good work ethic, then you're willing to work on things that you need to work on, and you're motivated. I think motivation is huge.
All right. Another question. What are the most important traits you look for in goaltenders? John, you're laughing at that one.
John's a
Stop the
goalie.
puck.
Coach Gardner was a goalie, so that's he's the expert on that one.
I'm not an expert. Stopping the puck. I think the ability to catch the puck and control the rebounds is huge. It's just, it seems to me there's a little carryover from other sports, and I when a kid tells me he plays baseball as well, because in baseball you obviously have to throw and catch. That helps, but that's a tough call. There's so many good goalies out there right now, and what separates a great goalie from a good goalie? It's probably consistency and in your performance. And everybody goes, "Oh, he had a bad day." I mean, but every coach wants a goalie that's going to be consistently good, and we all know that doesn't happen every day, but that's what we're looking for. And I think the goalie has to be probably the best athlete on the ice overall, and because there's so much depends upon the goalie, and the goalie has to be really tough mentally, because you're going to get beat, and if you don't have any confidence, a goalie loses confidence, then they're in a bad state. So obviously being confident and being athletic, and there's so many aspects of the game that are psychologically, I mean, you got to feel good about yourself, and you got to trust your teammates. And we all know that if you have a really good goalie, he can make a good team great. And if you have a mediocre goalie, he can take a really good team and bring it down to a lower level. So it's
behind every good coach, there's a great goalie.
Yep.
I don't know.
Goalies can make a really good coach.
Oh yeah. Tim, what do you think? What do you look for in a goalie?
Yeah, I'm the first to admit, Rich, I don't know a lot about that position. My father was a goalie, which is why I probably steered as far away from that position as possible. But we work with ProCrease, which maybe some of the goalies on the call work with. They'll be there this week as well, and they service our goalie needs each year. And Jared Wayman, who oversees that organization, is a good friend. So I actually will just share with him a lot of video and tape and get his feedback, and also listen to his recommendations. He obviously knows what he's talking about. So, but I do not pretend to know a lot about that position as much as Coach Gardner. That's for sure.
Cool. I got a really good question. I don't know who asked it. How often do you find a potential player or student for your school from these type of events who you may not have had on your radar before coming to this event to scout?
Good question.
Yeah, great question.
We're looking for somebody that jumps out at us, and somebody that we see on the ice and we go, "Oh, who's that guy?" And usually we've seen something, because we all get tons of videos. God knows, how many admissions videos that we get, and it's way of life now, because hockey recruiting is a global game. I mean, we get videos from all over the world, and it's amazing. And I sit down at night and I'm going, "Oh my God, I got to look at this one. I got to look at that one. I got to look at this one." And some of them, my eyes just glaze over, and I'm going, "Oh my God, I can't watch this crap." And some of them are really good, so they're professionally done. I mean, there's some that I go, I gotta save this one. This is unbelievable. But
All right, so just notes for all the players, the production quality better be good if you're sending video.
no,
on Old Farm.
and no sound, please, no sound.
No, I think, I mean, for me personally, and it's funny, I was talking with Rich and Pete about this before, but these events are huge for me in terms of identifying potential student athletes, and that's why I try to do as many as I possibly can. One, I think I speak for Coach Gardner and the other guys who aren't on the call. Like, we genuinely enjoy getting on the ice with kids and working with you in the course of a practice and watching your habits and watching the things you can do and a skill set, and then also watching you play against one another. So certainly for me, I leave every single one of these events with countless kids who I didn't know much about, or kids who I hadn't had the opportunity to see play. To Coach's point about, there's so much film, but to see a kid live is always a better way to do it, for sure. So these are huge events for us as coaches.
Cool. All right. I'm going to do one more question and then we're going to wrap up. This is from Logan. Logan asks, what's the best way to show your interest in a school? Who should they contact? Would be the head coach, one of you guys, or admissions?
Either one's fine,
All right, cool.
and yeah, I mean, everything has to go through admissions. So, I mean, if somebody contacts me, I'll generally CC admissions, and hopefully they do the same.
Yeah, exactly. That was exactly what I was going to say. Either way, it ends up coming to us one way or the other, but admissions has to set up the interviews and the tours and everything else, but it can go to either one.
Awesome. Well, thank you to everyone for coming to this. Coaches, thank you again for doing this. We're excited to have everyone on the ice tomorrow, and we'll see you out there.
All right. Thank you, guys. See you
Sounds
guys
good.
tomorrow.
Enjoyed it.